welcome to today's Explainer. So our word of the day today is ordinance. In just the next few minutes, we're going to dig into exactly what this word means, where it actually comes from, and how you can use it with total confidence. At its core, the whole concept of an ordinance, well, it has everything to do with rules, regulations, and local laws. Let's just dive right in.
Okay, quick question for you. Who makes the rules in your town? I want you to really think about that for a second. Think about those everyday regulations in your local community. You know, the rules that say exactly where you can park your car, how loud you can blast your music at night, or even where you're allowed to build a fence in your backyard. Who actually creates all of that? Well, those everyday rules issued by your local city or town council, that is exactly what we're exploring today.
But hey, before we get to the exact official definition, let's make sure we're actually saying it right. The word breaks down into 3 distinct syllables. Ordinance. Phonetically, it sounds kind of like this. Ordinance. I'm going to be your vocal coach for just a quick second here. I want you to actually say it out loud with me, right wherever you are right now. Ready? Ordinance. Okay, one more time with a bit more confidence. Ordinance. Fantastic.
So if we look at the precise core meaning straight out of the Wordsmyth Advanced Dictionary, ordinance is a noun. And the absolute most important meaning to zero in on is this: a regulation, law, decree, or rule, especially one issued by a city or town. Now, the absolutely crucial point here is that especially part. While the word generally means a rule, it's got this really specific, tight connection to the decrees and regulations that are handed down by your local municipal government.
All right, let's move away from that abstract dictionary definition to something you can actually visualize. I want you to picture an everyday scenario in your mind. Imagine you're walking downtown, right? Maybe you're heading into a public library, or a local restaurant, or a municipal building. You reach out to pull the handle and you see a formal sign pasted right there on the front door. We've all seen them, right?
And that sign reads, "The ordinance forbids smoking in all public buildings." Boom, that moment, that printed sign on the glass door, that captures the word ordinance perfectly. It just brilliantly illustrates the idea of a regulation or rule issued by a city, but in a real concrete situation. Because honestly, when you can connect a new word to a vivid visual scene exactly like this one, I guarantee the meaning is going to stick in your long-term memory.
Now, of course, to fully master a new vocabulary word, we also need to know when not to use it. You definitely don't want to throw around the word ordinance for casual or unofficial stuff. Like if you and your friends make a rule about what toppings belong on a pizza, or if your family has a really strict bedtime. Yeah, that is not an ordinance. If a situation doesn't fit the mold of a formal regulation, law, decree, or rule, again, especially one issued by a town, then ordinance is simply the wrong word for the job. It strictly belongs in that official, regulatory space.
To build our understanding even further, let's look at the ancient, genetic link to our word today. It comes from the Latin root ord, or ordin. And notice what that root means: row, rank, order. Isn't that actually fascinating? You can see exactly how the ancient, foundational concept of keeping things in a row, or maintaining rank and order, directly evolved into our modern word for local laws. The whole purpose of a city ordinance is, quite literally, to keep order.
Okay, let's expand your vocabulary a bit more by mapping ordinance to its closest relatives. The 2 biggest synonyms you need to remember are simply law and rule. But we also have some incredibly useful similar terms here, like command, declaration, decree, directive, edict, mandate, order, and regulation. Honestly, swapping these words in and out when you're writing or speaking, it's a real game changer. It makes your communication so much more dynamic and precise. And just to fully round out the whole legal and regulatory mental space surrounding our main word, here are a few more related concepts you'll often hear orbiting around ordinance. We've got act, armament, ban, like a citywide smoking ban, and legislation. Whenever you're reading your local news or maybe attending a town hall meeting, you're constantly going to hear the word ordinance living right next to these exact concepts.
So now, I want to turn this over to you. Can you think of an ordinance in your own life? Here's your challenge for the day. I want you to take active control of your learning. Think of a real thing in your day-to-day life that fits the meaning of ordinance. Maybe it's a zoning law in your neighborhood, a weekend noise restriction, or even a leash law for your dog at the local park. Try to write down just one single sentence about it using our word of the day. And hey, if you really want a bonus challenge, try to use one of the synonyms we just went over and maybe even look up an antonym just to prove you fully grasp its meaning inside and out. All right, let's wrap this whole shebang up with a quick, punchy recap to really cement this in your working memory.
Our word of the day is ordinance. Its core meaning, a regulation, law, decree, or rule, especially one issued by a city or town. And honestly, if you only remember one synonym from this entire explainer, just remember the word law. That is an ordinance. Try to use it in conversation this week. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought based on what we learned about its Latin root, order. If the ordinances in our towns are built to maintain order, what happens to a community when its ordinances are totally outdated or just ignored? Does the order crumble, or does it simply evolve into something new? Definitely something to think about next time you see a local regulation sign. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.